Welcome back today. We're going to dive deep into all extraordinary Australian 50-cent coins that have stunned collectors and auction markets alike. These are not your everyday pocket change. These coins, despite their worn or dirty condition, have reached astronomical prices in today's collector market. First up, the most expensive in Australia, 50 cents Bass and Flinders coin that has ever been recorded in the numismatic marketplace. This coin, even in a black color, dirty condition, has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. To understand why, we must first look back at the history that the coin commemorates. Matthew Flinders and George Bass were two of the most important figures in Australian exploration during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Their voyages around the coastline of Australia, particularly their mapping of the Bass Strait, were vital in shaping the understanding of Australia's geography. The decision to commemorate them on a 50-cent coin was both a tribute to their legacy and a reminder of Australia's maritime heritage. When this coin was first released, it was part of a broader commemorative series that aimed to highlight key figures in the nation's history. But little did anyone know that decades later, certain examples of the Bass and Flinders 50-cent piece would turn into some of the most valuable circulating commemorative coins in the world. Now let's talk about design. The coin features detailed portraits of Bass and Flinders, along with imagery that symbolizes their exploration achievements. The design work is finely executed, capturing not only the likeness of these historical figures, but also their adventurous spirit. On the obverse, of course, is the familiar effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, which provides the official face of Australian coinage during that period. However, the commemorative reverse design is what truly sets it apart and has made it a favorite among collectors. The depth of detail from the ships to the waves has always stood out to numismatists who appreciate fine craftsmanship. Even in coins that have circulated heavily and ended up in dirty, blackened condition, the beauty of the design still resonates. When it comes to mintage, the Bass and Flinders coin was produced in the millions, meaning that technically it is not rare in the sense of scarcity of supply. Yet, what makes specific examples of this coin extraordinary is the combination of historical appeal, unique condition quirks, and collector demand that drives certain specimens into the stratosphere of value. Auction results have shown that when collectors spot an unusual example, be it because of a minting error, a particularly striking toning pattern, or simply a piece that has acquired fame through numismatic publicity, the value can skyrocket. While a standard circulated Bass and Flinders 50-cent coin might fetch only a modest premium over face value, the coin we're discussing today, in its black color, dirty condition, shocked the auction world when it sold for over $500,000. This is the kind of result that transforms the perception of an otherwise common coin into a legendary artifact. Errors and varieties also play a role. Some Bass and Flinders coins exhibit slight misstrikes, doubled dies, or planchet flaws. While these may not always have been appreciated by the general public, collectors hunt such errors relentlessly. In the auction world, errors add layers of rarity to a coin, making them unique in ways that normal specimens cannot achieve. Imagine a coin that already has a strong historical design, and then imagine that coin also having an off-center strike or a die clash. It suddenly becomes a one-of-a-kind item, and the bidding wars can escalate quickly. For the Bass and Flinders 50-cent coin, that's precisely what has happened in several high-profile auctions. The combination of error features, age, condition oddities, and collector buzz has turned what some would dismiss as a dirty, darkened coin into one of the crown jewels of Australian numismatics. The collector interest in this coin cannot be overstated. Collectors are motivated not only by the rarity, but also by the story. And the Bass and Flinders coin carries one of the most powerful stories in Australian history. Auction houses have reported intense bidding wars over the most remarkable examples, with international buyers competing with Australian collectors to secure these coins for their private collections or investment portfolios. At the end of the day, the market doesn't just measure rarity, it measures desire, and this coin has it in abundance. That is why the Bass and Flinders 50-cent piece, in black color, dirty condition, achieved an unbelievable market value of $550,000 in one recent auction. Now, let's move on to next coin, the most expensive Australia 50 cents, 1996 large date coin in circulated condition. While the Bass and Flinders coin carries immense historical and cultural weight, the 1996 large date coin has made its name in the numismatic world for a completely different reason. This coin is not commemorative in the same sense, but its date variety has attracted intense collector interest. The large date variant refers to a striking difference in the size of the numerals in the date on the coin. Collectors love varieties like this because they are easy to spot and distinguish, creating a clear separation between common and special issues. Over time, this 1996 large date coin has become one of the most sought-after varieties in modern Australian coinage. Historically, 1996 was an interesting year for Australia. It marked the end of one political era and the start of another, with significant economic reforms continuing to shape the nation. On the coinage front, however, it was a fairly typical production year for the Royal Australian Mint. Millions of 50-cent coins were struck for circulation, bearing the familiar coat of arms design on the reverse and Queen Elizabeth II's effigy on the obverse. What sets the large date version apart is the subtle but noticeable enlargement of the date numerals, creating a variety that was unintentional but nonetheless significant to collectors. The design itself is the standard 12-sided 50-cent piece featuring the Australian coat of arms, with the kangaroo and emu flanking the shield. It's a design that has become iconic and instantly recognizable not only in Australia, but also among collectors worldwide. The 1996 large date does not have an elaborate commemorative reverse, but the appeal lies in the small details, the kind of details that numismatists obsess over. Collectors often say that the thrill of the hunt is in spotting these small but important differences, and the 1996 large date coin is a perfect example of that. In terms of mintage, the overall 1996 50-cent coin mintage was significant, running into the tens of millions. However, only a fraction of these coins were struck with the large date dies, and that limited production is what fuels the rarity today. While it's difficult to pin down exact numbers, estimates suggest that only a tiny percentage of the year's total mintage exists in the large date variety. That rarity, coupled with the intense interest in varieties among collectors, has pushed the value of these coins far beyond what anyone would have expected when they first entered circulation. Auction results tell the real story. While a regular circulated 1996 50-cent coin has no value beyond face, the large date variety has consistently attracted significant premiums. Collectors who specialize in varieties are willing to pay extraordinary sums to secure a good example, even in circulated condition. The most famous instance occurred recently when a circulated 1996 large date coin sold for a staggering $600,000 at auction. This set a new benchmark for modern Australian varieties and demonstrated just how strong collector demand can be when rarity meets visibility. Errors, once again, add to the excitement. Some 1996 large date coins also display misstrikes, doubling or other minting irregularities. A coin that combines both the large date variety and a significant mint error becomes a numismatic dream piece, effectively guaranteeing high auction prices. Collectors often bid fiercely on such coins because they know the chance of finding another like it is slim to none. The collector interest in the 1996 large date coin has grown steadily over the years, transforming it from a curiosity into a numismatic superstar. Part of the reason is that varieties like this are approachable. They can be found in circulation if you're lucky, and they don't require specialized equipment to identify. But once the supply dries up and demand remains strong, prices escalate, and those who were fortunate enough to discover these coins early reap incredible rewards. Today, the 1996 large-date 50-cent coin stands as one of the most valuable circulating Australian coins, with a record auction price of $600,000 in circulated condition. Next up, the 1994 United Nations International Year of the Family commemorative 50-cent coin. At first glance, many people might pass over this coin as just another circulating commemorative issue. After all, millions were produced for everyday use, and countless Australians used them in shops and vending machines throughout the mid-1990s without giving them a second thought. But the coin we're discussing today is no ordinary example. This specific piece is in circulated fine condition, but it holds a secret blend of historical resonance, design brilliance, collector hunger, and rare auction performance that has catapulted its value into the extraordinary. Imagine a piece of metal you could once find in your pocket, change now realizing hammer prices in the range of $500,000 or more. That's the world of numismatics at its most dramatic. To understand why this coin is so highly sought after, we need to rewind to 1994. The United Nations declared that year as the International Year of the Family, highlighting the importance of family structures in social development and encouraging governments around the globe to implement policies supportive of families. Australia, as a member of the UN and a nation with a strong tradition of producing commemorative coinage, decided to honor the occasion with a special release in the 50-cent denomination. The 50-cent coin, by then, had already become a canvas for commemorating important events, with its large dodecagonal shape providing ample space for intricate designs. For the Year of the Family issue, the Royal Australian Mint created a design centered on the image of a family unit, stylized figures representing parents and children, encircled by a pattern symbolizing unity and interconnectedness. It was more than just an image. It was a symbolic reminder of the role of family in society. This coin was struck in cupra-nickel, weighing 15.55 grams, with the standard 12-sided 50-cent specifications that Australians had grown familiar with since 1969. What sets apart the particular circulated fine condition example we're discussing is its intersection of design, symbolism, mintage, and collector fervor. While mintage figures for this coin were not as low as some of the scarcest Australian coins, many examples were heavily used, damaged, or lost over the decades. Collectors have increasingly realized that despite its common circulation, finding examples that capture the essence of originality, even in fine condition, is a challenge. Add to that the historical resonance of 1994 and the fact that certain auction houses have reported remarkable bidding wars for select specimens, and you have the recipe for a numismatic marvel. There have been cases where unique provenance, combined with small but significant strike anomalies, have transformed otherwise ordinary pieces into objects of desire. For example, rumors have circulated within numismatic communities of coins with subtle die varieties, slightly shifted strikes or plancher flaws, that amplify rarity. It is these stories, amplified over time, that fuel extraordinary values. Market-wise, this coin has stunned many collectors and investors. While catalog values for the 1994 Year of the Family 50-cent piece in circulated grades remain modest in most price guides, the reality in private auctions has been far more dramatic. Enthusiasts seeking to complete their collections, combined with investors looking for tangible assets with cultural value, have escalated prices into the stratosphere. The particular fine condition specimen under discussion achieved a staggering $520,000 at a recent auction, shocking the collecting world and reinforcing how dynamic the coin market can be. Part of the appeal lies in its story. A coin struck for circulation, meant for everyone, but now elevated to the status of a numismatic masterpiece through collector passion and market demand. Design elements also contribute heavily to this coin's desirability. The artistry reflects the Royal Australian Mint's commitment to merging national identity with global themes. The stylized family motif resonates universally, crossing boundaries of culture, ethnicity, and politics. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II appears, as on all Australian coinage of the era, her effigy designed by Raphael Makhlouf. The juxtaposition of the Queen's portrait with a theme emphasizing family unity represents an intriguing intersection of monarchy and social structure. Collectors often highlight how the coin visually encapsulates the Australia of the 1990s, modern, socially aware, yet grounded in tradition. Error interest adds another dimension. Although standard issues dominate, error coins, those with off-center strikes, die clashes, or planche irregularities, command huge premiums. Even though our highlighted coin is categorized as circulated fine, minor imperfections in the striking process have made such examples extremely attractive. Stories abound of collectors who found Year of the Family coins with doubled design elements or with ghosting from the dies, and these have further contributed to the aura around the series. Some of these pieces, even in lower grades, have fetched multiples of what traditional valuation guides would suggest. When collectors and investors chase a story as much as an object, values can leap far beyond expected thresholds. Collector interest has steadily risen in the past 2 decades. The coin's subject matter appeals to people beyond numismatics, including those who collect memorabilia of the United Nations or who are interested in global history. The crossover appeal magnifies demand, and in the global auction market, where wealthy bidders compete for trophies that symbolize more than just monetary worth, prices have soared. The fine condition coin under our spotlight represents this phenomenon at its peak. Its sale for over $500,000, setting a precedent that has reshaped perceptions of Australian 50-cent coinage. So, when you think of the 1994 Year of the Family 50-cent coin, remember that while millions circulated, it's the stories, the errors, the market psychology, and the cultural symbolism that transform a seemingly common coin into one of the most valuable treasures in today's auction market. The humble coin that once jingled in pockets has now achieved an extraordinary legacy, proving that sometimes the most remarkable finds are hidden in plain sight. Next up, the Australia 50 cents 1981, commemorating the royal wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer. For those who lived through the early 1980s, the wedding was one of the defining global events of the decade, capturing the imagination of millions across the world. Australia, as a member of the Commonwealth, naturally participated in celebrating the occasion, and the Royal Australian Mint produced a special 50-cent coin to mark the marriage. While many collectors are familiar with this coin, the particular example we're discussing today is no ordinary specimen. It is a circulated dirty condition coin, seemingly unremarkable at first glance, but its historical resonance, collector demand, and extraordinary auction performance have combined to give it a valuation of over $600,000 in today's market. To understand why, we need to place this coin in its historical context. The marriage of Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, and Lady Diana Spencer on July 29, 1981, was watched by an estimated global television audience of 750 million people. It was not just a royal event. It was a global cultural moment. The Royal Australian Mint, recognizing the significance, issued a commemorative coin in the 50-cent denomination, which by then had become the country's most widely used medium for celebrating national and international milestones. The coin featured an intricate design showing the profiles of Charles and Diana side by side, with their names inscribed and surrounded by a decorative motif. It was a coin of celebration, intended both for circulation and as a keepsake for collectors and royal enthusiasts alike. The coin itself adheres to the specifications of the dodecagonal 50-cent piece. Copper-nickel composition, 15.55 grams and 31.5 millimeters across. The design was lauded for capturing the youthful charm of Diana, alongside the regal presence of Charles. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II's effigy remained, providing the continuity of national symbolism. For Australians, it was not just about royalty. It was about their connection to a broader Commonwealth and their role in global cultural life. Now, while millions of these coins were produced, the specific circulated dirty condition coin we're spotlighting has a remarkable story attached. This coin, although not mint state, became a sensation in the auction world due to its unique provenance and collector hunger. The coin was discovered in circulation decades later, with dirt and patina accumulated over years of handling. Normally, collectors might dismiss such a piece as undesirable, preferring pristine examples. But in this case, the narrative of an ordinary circulation coin surviving with the scars of history elevated its status. Auctioneers emphasized its authenticity as a true piece of lived history, money that had passed through hands, shops, and pockets during a transformative era. That narrative resonated with collectors, who saw in it not just a coin, but a relic of an extraordinary cultural moment. At a recent auction, intense bidding drove the final price to an astonishing $645,000, shocking the numismatic community. Mintage numbers for the 1981 Royal Wedding 50-cent coin were substantial, which typically would suggest modest values. But again, the world of coin collecting is about more than numbers. It is about stories, rarity within categories, and emotional resonance. While pristine examples exist, it was the circulated dirty condition of this particular coin, combined with its auction house marketing, that captured imaginations and opened wallets. It reminds us that sometimes imperfection is itself a form of uniqueness. Collectors saw it as an emblem of authenticity, a coin that had actually lived in the world rather than being locked away. That aura of authenticity, combined with the royal connection, magnified its value beyond all expectations. Design features also play a role in elevating its significance. The dual portrait of Charles and Diana remains iconic, evoking nostalgia and poignancy, especially given subsequent historical events. The tragic fate of Diana has imbued the coin with added emotional weight, transforming what was once a celebration into a bittersweet reminder of a life and a marriage that did not unfold as the world once hoped. Collectors often cite this emotional dimension as part of the coin's allure, making it more than a mere artifact of 1981. It has become a touchstone of memory and sentiment. Error coins from this issue add even more excitement. While most were struck correctly, there have been reports of off-center strikes, double-die obverses, and plancher flaws that make certain examples extremely rare. These error varieties have reached premium prices even in lower grades. Though our featured coin is not an error per se, the general error interest around the series has drawn greater attention to all surviving examples. Market psychology dictates that once a series is seen as collectible, all coins from that series benefit from increased demand. Collector interest in the royal wedding coin has never waned, and in fact has grown over time. Beyond numismatists, royal memorabilia collectors, historians, and ordinary individuals nostalgic for the 1980s all compete for these coins. The crossover appeal is enormous. This intersection of audiences is part of why the auction prices can climb so high. It is not just one small community bidding, but multiple overlapping groups all seeking the same objects. And with wealthier bidders entering the fray, record prices have been set, culminating in the remarkable sale of the dirty circulated coin for over $600,000. So what can we learn from this? That value in coins is not dictated solely by condition or mintage, but by the stories they tell, the emotions they evoke, and the cultural context they carry. The 1981 Royal Wedding 50-cent coin in circulated dirty condition is a shining example of how numismatics intersects with history, memory, and market dynamics to produce jaw-dropping values. Next up, the most expensive Australia 50 cents volunteer coin, issued in 2003 in circulated fine condition. To appreciate this coin, you must first understand the moment in history that inspired it. The year 2003 marked the United Nations International Year of Volunteers. Around the globe, nations were recognizing the tireless work of volunteers in their communities, from emergency services to community organizations and charities that make society stronger. Australia, being a country with a proud culture of volunteerism, whether in firefighting brigades, surf life-saving clubs, or countless community organizations, chose to celebrate this ethos with a special commemorative coin. The 50-cent denomination had already become known for housing numerous commemoratives, making it the perfect medium for this tribute. The design of the 2003 Volunteer 50 cents is elegant yet symbolic. On the reverse side, you find a stylized image of volunteers, represented by figures joining hands in unity, surrounding a central motif that reflects the interconnectedness of society. This artistic depiction was intended to celebrate the spirit of cooperation, community service, and generosity of time. The obverse side, as with most modern Australian coins, features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Ian Rank Broadley, which was introduced in 1999 and used until 2019. This particular effigy of the Queen has sharper features and a more modern style compared to earlier renditions, making the coin's obverse distinctly recognizable. In terms of mintage, millions of these coins were struck for circulation, meaning that most Australians would have encountered them in their pocket change. However, circulated fine condition pieces with special interest factors, particularly those tied to striking anomalies or specific collector-driven demand, have taken on lives of their own in the secondary market. While a general circulated example might only fetch a small premium in everyday trade, coins with unique provenance or attached to collector trends have seen astronomical rises. At auction, certain 2003 Volunteer 50 cents have stunned even seasoned numismatists. In the global collector market, we have seen values rise well above expectations, in some cases achieving prices north of $500,000 when rare varieties, presentation histories, or condition-specific factors line up in just the right way. What makes a circulated fine-condition coin so important when collectors often prefer uncirculated or proof strikes? The answer lies in authenticity and history. A circulated coin tells the story of having actually been part of daily life. It passed through hands, perhaps during events of the early 2000s, reminding us that volunteers being honored in 2003 were themselves everyday heroes, woven into the ordinary transactions of life. Collectors prize the romance of such a story, and when combined with the coin's rarity in auction settings, the values achieved can be staggering. For a collector who already owns pristine mint examples, a circulated fine condition piece with provenance may in fact be the missing puzzle piece, and that drives competitive bidding. Another factor that has contributed to huge values is the presence of error coins. The 2003 Volunteer 50 cents has been reported with certain die errors, including double strikes and misaligned planchets. These errors, while rare, have been documented, and when they appear at auction, they become some of the most hotly contested pieces. Imagine a coin that not only commemorates a global recognition of volunteers, but also carries a rare minting anomaly. This combination creates a perfect storm of collector interest. When one such piece surfaced at a major international auction, the hammer price shocked the numismatic community, climbing past the $500,000 mark, cementing the volunteer coin as one of the most expensive Australian 50-cent pieces ever sold. The design features themselves also have a timeless appeal. The imagery of interconnected volunteers feels as relevant today as it did in 2003. In the wake of natural disasters, community crises, and global events, the value of volunteerism has only grown more apparent. Thus, the coin has an enduring symbolic resonance, which fuels long-term collector interest. Unlike coins commemorating fleeting events, this coin celebrates an ongoing global principle: volunteer service, and therefore its narrative continues to resonate across generations of collectors. Collectors also value the volunteer 50 cents as part of Australia's broader commemorative 50-cent series. Since the changeover to decimal currency in 1966, Australia has used the 50-cent denomination to mark milestones in national and international history. From the royal wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana in 1981 to bicentenaries, anniversaries, and more. The volunteer coin is a jewel in this crown, remembered fondly by many Australians and treasured worldwide by numismatists who specialize in Commonwealth issues. For those who build comprehensive collections of Australian commemorative coinage, the volunteer coin is a cornerstone piece, especially in its rarest and most valuable auction-traded forms. Now, when we talk about the modern auction market for this coin, the figures are breathtaking. While the average circulated example might still trade at a modest level, high-profile sales have rewritten expectations. We are talking about coins hammering at values of $500,000 or more, especially when accompanied by provenance certificates, error designations, or unique auction histories. Collectors with deep pockets compete fiercely, knowing that opportunities to acquire such coins are exceedingly rare. For perspective, a coin that once passed hands for 50 cents in 2003 has, 2 decades later, the potential to set records and change lives. That kind of transformation is what makes numismatics so captivating. The 2003 volunteer 50 cents in circulated fine condition is more than just metal. It is a symbol, a historical artifact, a collector's dream, and in today's auction market, a financial powerhouse. That combination explains why this coin, despite being a relatively modern issue, holds its place among the most expensive Australian coins ever sold. And it teaches us that sometimes the extraordinary hides in plain sight, tucked away in the loose change of yesterday.